All right, welcome in. It is Monday. It is time for Full Court Press. Rob Bino, the snow has taken over the country. Whole bunch of games canceled. There's cancellations as we speak. Games are getting canceled. I think Long Island and Wagner got called off this morning, but fortunately for us, it feels like the two big games today are going to go on without a hitch. Louisville, Duke, Arizona, BYU. We complained couple Mondays ago about, hey man, like we all there is extra board. There's nothing, it's almost like a throwaway day. Tonight we got two huge games that almost deserve the stage, right? Like it's almost good that there's not much up against them. Two huge games. Let's start in the ACC. Robino, I was at this game a couple weeks ago. Louisville, Duke. I was at the KFC Yum Center. It was I still have the rally towel right here. Go Cards, beat Duke. It's from the game. If anyone wants this, let me know. I know we got a couple Louisville fans. I'll send it to you. Rob, I have a rule. I can't, if something's got a logo on it, I can't throw it out. Just, you know what I mean? If there's a logo and a date, can't throw it out. But anyway, that game, listen, you never know, right? But I know we have like actual fans of Louisville. I got my Louisville jacket on right here that I got at the game. That's good enough for me. So if you want the rally towel, hit me up. Send me a DM. I'll mail it to you. First one that wants it. But in that game, Rob Vino, Go Cards beat Duke. They thought they were going to do that for the first 20 minutes. They hit 10 threes in the first half. The Yum Center was rocking. And I think I texted you, and I posted this to Twitter. With 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the second half of that game, the Yum Center was emptying out. Like 8,000 people were walking out. It was an 11-point game with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. And it was like Duke just demoralized this team in the second half. And I think that's where we'll start the handicap, right? This team is so good. I looked, Rob, right around this time of year, people like to bring up the whole Ken Pom, the champion, the winner event, the tournament winner ends up being top 25 in offensive and defensive efficiency on Ken Pom. Duke is top 5 in both of those metrics. You can't have a bad half against Duke. Louisville hit 10 threes in the first half, had like an 8-point lead at halftime, still came nowhere near winning that game. Now they go on the road here. They do get Mikal Brown back. I think that's important. But talk to me a little bit about Louisville Duke. How are you seeing this one?
Well, let's get into Mikal Brown real quick. Came back on Saturday. Immediate impact. I know it's only Virginia Tech, but 28 minutes. Didn't seem like there was much issue with the back. 20 points. 7 of 11 from the floor in that game. 64% shooting. 3 of 6 from threes. I mean, he looked every bit the part and did not play, like you say, against Duke the first time around. So here's an added piece that, and the primary piece as far as key personnel goes for Louisville, aside from Conwell, that, this one's on the road, so it's going to be a little bit different, but certainly Louisville now at full strength. We'll see if they can carry over what they did in the first half in Louisville for full game here in Duke. The great thing about Duke, Adam, is that Louisville game wasn't the first time that they've been behind the 8 ball at halftime and come back to win. They've been great in the second half on a lot of occasions where they needed to be. The front line is the front line. I mean, Boozer, probably front runner for your National Player of the Year right now, or at least in the mix of the top 3. The front line for Duke has been tremendous. The 3-point shooting, when necessary, has been tremendous. You can't find a weakness. I think you just pointed out that they're top 5 in 2 major categories. It's hard to find a weakness on this particular team. So Louisville's going to have to be their best, especially on the road. As far as weather is concerned, I don't know that the travel situation was all that tough to get to Durham. I know I have family in Raleigh who said there was about an inch of ice, but really not a bunch of snow. So not a weather-affected game for Duke. You start looking at what they've done against the spread, and it's 7 games in a row now where they've won, 8 games in a row where they've won, but 4-4 against the spread. So sometimes overpriced. We have to keep that into the equation in our line of work. Are the odds makers overpricing Duke? Are they fairly priced? I think at this point in time, you use the phrase paying a tax on this team, and you probably are, but 7.5 doesn't seem not doable for them. at this point in time, especially if the game gets late and they're ahead and they need to stretch. They shoot free throws fairly well. All depends who you get to the free throw line, but when you get the right guys to the free throw line, they're going to be good. I would say this, from a point spread perspective, I semi-lean Duke. Just because for Duke, here's a couple of things real quick. I'm going to say almost the same exact things about Arizona later on. Their record is their record. Their statistics are their statistics, but they've done it against the 14th toughest schedule in the nation. It's not some kind of fluke where they're beating up garbage night in and night out. Duke's been doing this for a long time this season, so I don't know that changes here. And again, they seem unfazed. When they're hit with a first punch, they retaliate to the first punch. Their retaliation has been better than what the opponent's first punch was. And it's for Duke. If you're Duke in this conference, there's certain teams that are going to walk in and you're going to have that game. I won't say circled because you're Duke, but you're going to pay extra focus, extra attention to. So I think Duke is fully aware who's going to be in their building. I think Brown is a bit of a difference maker for sure. 7.5, I would probably lean. Well, just look at this. And we talked about this Saturday, how the lines move during our show. I now see 8.5 across the board. Somebody just hit Duke at 7.5. I was about to say I would lean Duke. We'll take another look at it at this price tag. Total 156 up to 157. In all honesty, I don't think there's any way Louisville could win a defensive-minded game. It's got to get up and down for Louisville, and they just have to shoot better than Duke in order to win the game entirely. Duke's defense is good enough to not make that happen. So 157 may be a little bit too tall of a hill to climb. I haven't played either thing here, Adam, side or total, and we do talk a lot about giving full analysis and just maybe not having a play. I can give you arguments for both sides here. Duke is the better team at this point in time, and everything they've shown me is that they're not fazed by any situation or circumstance. So maybe slight lean Duke, but the price has changed, and maybe slight lean under. If you're shopping it, guys that are viewing right now, and that we'll see this later, at this point in time, there are 157.5s out there as opposed to 157. So we know the hook makes a difference. If you're going to shop and you do like under, find some of those 157.5s. They're available out there.
Yeah, listen, right. This is going to, I see the 8.5 starting to pop up from a number standpoint. I was kind of right in that range. Actually, I think there's at 8.5. I think there's a little bit of value to Louisville. Thing is though, like I think the number is close. I think it's really going to come down to what your handicap of the game is. I'll say this: I do think, the second half of that game, the first game was So here's what I felt like happened in that first game. The first half, Duke kind of went through the motions on defense, which is something that you and I have noted that they've done this year, right? Go back, maybe not recently, but go back to that game was January 6th. So leading into that game, Rob, you had the Georgia Tech game where they gave up a whole bunch of points. Someone else, I think Florida State maybe like hung around and scored a bunch of points on Duke. And we had actually talked about the defensive effort for Duke just not being there in a couple of those games, December into January. I don't think that that's really an issue for them anymore. I think Duke's defensive effort has been fine. You don't get to, a top 5 defensive efficiency rating on KenPom without a good defensive effort. Louisville struggled to space the floor big time in the second half of that game. And so once those threes stopped going in, they hit 10 threes in the first half. Believe they had an 8-point lead. Once those threes stopped going in, they had no way to get off a good shot. The spacing was all messed up. Duke started to get into the passing lanes, and suddenly it was like every shot in the second half of that game was contested. And Duke was able to get a bunch of stops and turn an 8-point deficit into like a 10-point lead in a matter of about 15 minutes. Mikal Brown Jr. is gonna cure a lot of that, right? So he was out for really over a month, and he comes back over the weekend, plays 29 minutes, scores 20 points, 6 assists. The floor spacing looked great for Louisville. They handled Virginia Tech, no problem. So for me, that to me is makes Louisville very appealing here, because They did space it out. I think two things you could say. One, maybe Duke didn't quite have the intensity on defense in the first half of that game that they should have. They probably do at home. But I think Brown being on the floor helps the floor spacing. The question will be, and this is the $1 million question, Rob, can Louisville shoot the ball good enough on the road? Because that's where they've struggled a little bit this year, shooting the ball on the road, and they'll have to do it in the most hostile of environments here. So that I think is where, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, I'll say this about Louisville and take it with a grain of salt because a ton of this was without Mikel Brown on the floor. But their totals numbers right now, 1-8 under in their last 9 games. And again, a batch of those were without Brown. So it's hard to put any real substance into that because there's so much different of an offensive team with him there. Second thing I'll say is because when you said maybe they didn't have the defensive intensity or focus first time around, and that crept up again, Adam, against SMU. Duke played SMU here. Boopy Miller didn't play. And SMU was going crazy. And actually, SMU pressed them most of the game. Game only finished as a 7-point final, 82-75. It's almost as if Duke said, you know what? Their best guy, their point guard, he's not involved. We'll just go out there and win the game. And that's kind of, I think, what maybe you were alluding to about their first half against Louisville. I just don't think that's happening here. I think Louisville's going to come in. Duke knows who they are. Further look at this number. I'm going to say one more thing about the total because I just happened to check recent team total on this game. Louisville's number, Adam, is 74.5. And I had said previously that the only way I think they can win this game is if they get it into a higher scoring matchup. 74.5 might be low. I know I've said a couple of things about under here, and maybe it sounds contradictory, but as I work through the weeds here, I think 74.5 could be doable for a Louisville team that first time around got to 73 without Brown. And so you start putting that into perspective and you say, can they get an extra bucket with him on the floor, even though it's away? And maybe Duke has a little more focus. Maybe so. So I'll probably look further into that play potential for a Louisville team total over here.
Yeah, Rob, Louisville scored 26 points in the second half of that game. Just, again, I think those are all good points. And for me, just to put a bow on it, as we like to say, and give a lean, I would say it's strong. It's something I would consider. Louisville at 8.5. I think that they can hang around here. Like I think if I was going to play this, I'd have to think that they can stay within that number. I just don't think that PK, our boy Pat Kelsey, is going to allow them to sort of give up the way they did in the second half to Duke on their home floor. So, and they've been playing much better. If you remember that stretch going into that game, that was a not the best stretch for Louisville. I believe they came out after that barely beat Boston College. Struggled with Virginia. So I think Louisville's playing better ball right now. All right, other big game tonight, Rob. Let's go out west. Number 1, Arizona heads to one of my favorite buildings that I've been to this point. There's not many, like going to so many, Rob. There's not many at this point that I just feel like I have to get back to at some point in time. The Marriott Center in Provo, Utah. I will absolutely get that back there at some point in time. BYU, huge game, biggest home game of the season probably for them. They take on number 1 Arizona. That metric that I brought up with Duke, right? Like where it's like, okay, every year, start end of January, you'll hear this on all your, if you watch a lot of these other shows, this is going to be a favorite of like people that just strolled in to talk about basketball, like mid-January. They love the Ken Pom top, the winner always comes from the top 25 or top, if your offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency on Ken Pom is in the top 25 on both. Usually someone from that group wins the NCAA tournament. Well, like I said, Duke's in the top 5 in both. So is Arizona. Rob Vino, do you think Arizona maybe doesn't get enough credit for how good defensively they are? Because this is a team that's been outstanding defensively. We've called them the number 1 team in the country from a power rating standpoint on this show for a couple of weeks now. But you want to talk about another thing that happens all the time on the show. The money is creeping in. BYU's getting bet. This is down to 1 some places. Arizona, BYU, Marriott Center tonight. How do you see this one?
It's such a great game and so much to talk about, Adam. But first, because I had a list made just to further the point. I mean, for those who haven't been introduced to Arizona yet, let's just introduce them to Arizona. Number 2, these are specialized statistics because I was thinking of ways this morning. How is BYU going to beat these guys, right? Arizona's offense, number 2 in Division I in points in the paint. So they're difficult offensively inside the arc. Number 5 in the nation in fast break points. So not only can they play close to the rim, but they get out into the open floor too. 31 points off turnovers. As you said, number 4 offensive rating in the country, number 11 defensive rating, number 5 on the offensive glass rebound percentage, number 11 on the defensive glass rebound percentage. So they get second shots and you don't. Basically, they shut you down there. And they've played a top 50 schedule. Next thing I'll say, just to introduce them even further, is there a better freshman class than what Arizona has put on the floor this year? I mean, honestly, Braden Burry's been tremendous. Koa Pete's been the best of them all. Ivan Karchenkov been great at forward. Dwayne Aristote has come off the bench. I mean, they've got these guys all over the place, and they're all freshmen, and they've beaten UConn. The one thing I guess we could nitpick at Arizona for is not really going to a true home floor and beating a true elite team, right? They've done it on semis, on neutrals, et cetera, because the Connecticut win, the Florida win, all this stuff that they've accomplished isn't really going to Marriott Center, watching baby races and seeing humongous donuts and beating BYU inside that building. All that said about Arizona, I'll say this again, or as well. For everybody in basketball who thinks, all these analytics lovers who think that 3-point shooting is your ticket to a national title, Arizona ranks 359th in the country on 3-point distribution as being part of their total scoring. They don't use the 3 as a weapon whatsoever. It's there, but they don't use it. They're 11 and 2-point scoring. That's a complete contradiction to what all these trade 3s for 2s people will tell you. They're a little bit of an outlier in that regard. That's it. The advantage they have here, Adam, is they have depth. But BYU starting 5, I don't know that I would trade it. Right? If somebody was just going to drop in and say, Adam, I'm going to give you a team. I'm going to give you Robert Wright at point guard. I'm going to give you Richie Saunders to shoot beyond the arc. He'll be your shooting guard. I'm going to give you the best freshman in the country, highest recruited freshman in the country, AJ DeBansta. I'm going to give you Kiba Keita to keep the rim defense. And then, Kennard Davis will be your 5th player. You probably take it. The problem for BYU is beyond that, they don't play a lot of people. There's not a lot of huge contribution from the bench, but those starters are electric. A lot of the offensive numbers I went through with Arizona, you could match with BYU. They're that good offensively at home. We know what that crowd is like. To me, this game probably does get to the over 165.5. I just don't know if Cade has enough rim defense to stop what Arizona does on the glass, what Arizona does in second chances, what Arizona does in offensive scoring. And on the other end, is there an answer on the other side for DeBansta? I'm not sure there is defensively. As good as Arizona's been, I think they'll be tested on all levels of the floor like they haven't been tested all season long. If we're being real about it, when Arizona played Florida, the guards weren't playing well. That was way back in the beginning of the season, right? BYU's guards are going to play well. When they played UConn, we're seeing now UConn just doesn't have the offensive firepower that BYU brings to the table. This is a unique opponent. It's a conference game. Arizona's been untested in conference. I think side is really difficult here, but I think there's going to be points, Adam. BYU's going to show Arizona some things overall that maybe they haven't seen yet because they'll have to handle everything defensively, everything. BYU comes at you with all of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at Arizona's schedule and say that they were fortunate in a couple of spots. Of course, Florida getting them opening night. That team's come a long way since then, specifically the backcourt. Terrace Reed did not play for UConn in the game against UConn, so that was at Stores. So I mean, you got to give him credit for a road win against UConn. But yeah, no Terrace Reed is certainly notable. I think that game could have. I mean, it was a 71-67 final. It was a great game throughout, and they did it without one of the better bigs in that conference, maybe in the country. So yeah, I mean, all of those things I think are notable in my opinion. For Arizona, here's what I noticed when I was kind of looking through BYU, trying to make a case for BYU, because I think when this was 2.5 plus, BYU plus 2.5, I even think there may have been a rogue 3 some places last night. I was like, okay, I think I can make a case for BYU here, because I maybe, I make them a very slight favorite, right? Like a -1, -1.5 favorite in this game. But then I'm looking at their scoring, Rob, and it's so concentrated to DeBansta, Saunders, Rob Wright. And then I look at Arizona's defense and I'm like, well, they theoretically should be able to like eliminate one of those guys, right? Like they may have an answer for DeBansta and force BYU to beat them with option number 2, number 3. And then where it concerns me is like option 4, 5, and 6 for BYU, because Kennard Davis barely played against Utah. I would want to know what the deal is there. He only played 12 minutes, didn't score a point. Is he out, right? Because like once you get past the big 3 for BYU, no one's like scoring in bunches. And so my concern here for the BYU side is that Arizona is good enough defensively to take, like, let's say they can take DeBanster away. It can BYU score enough to beat Arizona with the other 2, and then like whatever other option needs to step up. Probably, like, yeah, I guess so. Like, they're certainly one of the teams that could do it. I think that's why this makes this such a good watch tonight. But you're talking about only catching 1.5 points. That's where I'm like having a hard time thinking, do I want to go to battle here with BYU, getting less than a bucket, and knowing that Arizona might be equipped defensively to take away our superstar. I think that's the conundrum that you're running into with this game.
Yeah, and depth it's a difference maker, Adam, right? Arizona can come at you with 8 guys. If there's any, let's just say Cada, who has a tendency to get into foul trouble against the Arizona bigs here. Let's say he gets into some foul trouble. There's not really an answer for BYU where rim protection is concerned, where, he's pretty, his offensive claim to fame would be, the penetrate and lob dunks, that sort of thing. So for BYU, they've got to stay out of foul trouble because they're depth shy. They've got to shoot really well. Arizona doesn't face those problems. Like I said before, they score their points inside the arc. They're not 3-point dependent. This isn't one of those games where you come on the show and say they have to go absolutely ballistic from 3. Arizona doesn't have to do that against anybody. And it's still, they get points off fast breaks. I think I said they were number 5 in the nation in fast break points. So it's a tough ask for BYU. It's the right building for them to play this game in, because if it were any other building, I don't know that we would try to build a case against Arizona at this point. The Arizona freshmen on the road, they've been to hostile environments already and come through. I mean, Koa Pete has been amazing. And I'll say this. I really don't think that Bradley gets enough recognition as a point guard. One of the best point guards in the country that a lot of other guys do. He just sort of goes unnoticed, but his leadership is tremendous. So I'm going to look at this from some sort of totals perspective, and I'll leave the game to the game, because did BYU, I don't know, did they overlook Utah semi on Saturday? They had already beaten them once, although Utah gave them trouble the first time. Gave them not a little bit of trouble for a while the second time, then they pulled away. But I don't know if they had their eyes on this game or not. We'll see. I just think Arizona's the deeper team at this point in time, and that may come into play here tonight.
2 awesome games. No matter how you look at the card, maybe we'll find something to bet in the other 7, 8 games tonight. But 2 tremendous games that totally deserved the time we spent on them, in my opinion. It's just you don't get. This is like the first Monday where we've really had like 2 huge games to talk about. So, we'll see what happens there. Let's go to Terry Toohey. He says, Adam, please comment on your big in caps, Rob, 5-unit blowout loss last night. Another blown big call. Please address it. Yeah, we can address that. I had Florida Atlantic yesterday. I had a good number, Rob. I had Florida Atlantic +6. They were up 3 at half. They got destroyed in the second half. Listen, the number 5 comes after the number 4. Okay. So like on Saturday, I went 4-1, all 4 percenters and I think won like 11.6 units. 5%, 5-unit, like it's only one more unit. Okay. It's really just marketing. I feel like that doesn't get thrown. Dave Cookman, the GOAT, the greatest one of the greatest to ever do this, toward the end of his career, just straight up didn't want to do 5%ers anymore. He's like, people just don't get it. Like they unload and bet the house. He's like, it's really just one more unit. So they used to have to almost like beg him to put a 5%er out because he's like, I just don't feel like listening to it if it loses. Point is, all that is marketing. Okay. And like, if you're a personal injury lawyer, like you probably don't want your face on a billboard on the side of the road, but you just do it to get the word out. So like at this point in the show, that's what Rob and I do. Like, we probably think that 2 times the firepower thing is a little bit dumb, but that's, we got to do something to get your attention because remember, like we come on here for an hour, but we still sell picks. That is what we do for a living. So without further ado, Rob, I'm going to do a promo right now. Rob and I, if you want all of our plays for 3 days, any stretch of 3 days, it's on both of our pages. One low price. All the plays Rob makes, all the plays I make, 5%er, 4%er, 3%er, doesn't matter. But guys, like, don't get to like four comes after 5. It's one more unit. There's no, like, you shouldn't get like be going nuts on the 5%ers. Just, so Terry wanted me to address it. So I addressed it. So there you go. I had a good weekend. I went 4-2, made like 6 or 7 units. We're just trying to grind this out every day here. Rob Vino, how was your weekend? I saw you hitting a few totals on Saturday at one point.
Yeah, it wound up being, it's an interesting day, Adam. 5-0 to start the day and then wind up 7-6 with a couple of things that just did not go my way. Probably should have been more like a 9-4, but the SMU free throw shooting at the very end kept me a point away from going over that total, et cetera, et cetera. I won't drill down into it. I will say that over a 7-week period since December the 1st, up over 41 units, playing small, Terry. In my instance, it's been smaller plays, 1.5%, 2% the whole way through, long season, trying to grind through. But over 41 units in college basketball over a 7-week period, hitting 59%. I don't know. All I would say, something like Terry, is listen, first off, we're going to take criticism in the line of work that we do. You're going to take criticism. You're recommending selections to people. You're going to take criticism. That's cool. But I feel like you had a huge 5% winner right before the 5% loss. And all I'm asking Terry is one time when Adam wins, come on and congratulate him for hitting a 5%. Don't always come on with the negativity. There's a lot of stuff going on here. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll give you the floor, Adam, is we bet these games too. For those of you who think that it's just 2 hacks coming on here and trying to talk about something to sell picks, it's really not. And I won't even say it's not true. And I got like 8 accounts here. So we're betting these same plays every single day. It hurts us the way it hurts you. But if you're going to make it in this business or in the sports betting line of work over a long period of time, you have to have a real short memory and just come back the next day. You can't dwell on these things. I learned it years ago. I was taught by a lot of gentlemen who knew better than I did when I was in my 20s. So, we appreciate the feedback all the time. We always do. We appreciate you watching the show. Obviously, we'll take the good with the bad, but throw us a little good one time. That's what we're going to ask here. And once again, because the company does exist upon sales, Full Court Press. You get every play Adam releases.
Yep.
You get every play I release. The package is called Double the CBB Firepower. 3 days. All the selections, including 5%ers, for just $59. They reduced that price really nice for you. And as I said, it's been a really good season for me so far. And Adam has been hot as of late as well. So double the CBB Firepower, $59, 3-day package.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. I'm not here out of the goodness of my heart 6 days a week. I'm here because I want you to buy our picks off the website. I could think of, I have I think I have 3 feet of snow in my driveway right now. So I could be doing that, but instead I'm here because I want to share some good info, but I also want you to buy the picks. So back to the picks here. Rob, there's still more games to talk about today. We hit a 2-teamer on Friday. We hit 2 of 3 on Saturday. So that was a loss, but we're still so chasing a couple units on the parlay. We have different options that we can lock in. I didn't really see anyone recommend a game in the chat, so I'll throw one out there that interests me because I may use this for the parlay. We have WAC basketball tonight down in Stephenville, Texas, home of Jarrett Stidham and home of the Tarleton State Texans. They're going to take on Abilene Christian. Tarleton State's in a little bit of a swoon these days. They've lost 4 straight games, which, Rob, in the WAC conference this year is not that hard to do because there's only 7 teams and they're all pretty good. Like, they're all pretty even. So it's like, Tarleton State was riding high. They were 2-1. They lost a close one, and it kind of snowballs quickly. And suddenly they're 2-5 and they're at the bottom of the league. They're a slight favorite, 4.5-point favorite at home here. Man, if I knew they were going to, if I could really know, and I feel like I follow this program as closely as just about anyone. If I knew Dior Johnson was going to play like more than 20 minutes and play all of his minutes, Tarleton would be like a true no-brainer here for me. But his minutes have been sporadic. And when he's not on the floor, Tarleton doesn't score the way that they do when he's on the floor. Because right now, Rob, he's the leading scorer in the country. So what do you make of that? Abilene, Tarleton, do you have anything on the total there for me?
I think they took the best part of the total away, Adam. I would think this game goes under, but it opened 149. It's down to 145.5. A couple of reasons why. Abilene on the defensive end, because of the pressure that they like to apply, they really, I don't want to call them, I use the phrase one trick pony a lot for teams that do one thing well, and then the rest is, a crapshoot, whether they can do it well or not. Generally, they can't. For Abilene, if they can get their hands on balls and they can steal the ball and they can turn you over, then they're a much better defensive unit than they are when they can't. Tarleton inside league has handled the ball really well. And so from that perspective, if Abilene can't stop the number of possessions that Tarleton gets by turning them over, can't steal the ball and get cheap points on their end, I don't know what their scoring output could be in this game. Other side of that coin, Abilene's just not a good offensive team at all. And so they probably don't score much here on the road. I would say look towards the total here, but I will also say that I think the people who got there early got the best of this number. The Dior Johnson question is a good one, Adam, because if you find out that he's going to go his full complement of minutes, you might reverse course and say, well, wait a minute now, that number's been taken down because of his potential, not playing full complement of minutes, not playing at all. And maybe you want to turn around and play Tarleton State team total or full game team total now that you can punch back a little bit at a lesser number. Tough game to call from that perspective. I do think Abilene's in a little bit of trouble here simply because they don't score. And I don't think they're going to be able to turn Tarleton over the way they need to get cheap points and to take away some Tarleton possessions.
Yeah, the Dior stuff is interesting because I watched most of the Utah Tech game, and he was on the bench. He seemed fine, but he didn't come in he was out for like 10 minutes in the second half of a game that was close. And so, to me, that says, okay, well, there's clearly something's up. Now, he came in at the end of the game, played a little bit, those final couple possessions. And I'm thinking to myself, did he tweak something? Is it hard for him to move around? And then they realized they had a chance at the end and they were just like, hey, can you go in for like 2 possessions and get up a shot? It's just so odd to see that he's come off the bench all year because he's the leading scorer in the country. He is a clear, he's going to play at the next level, Rob, no doubt about it. The question will be, is it in the NBA or is it somewhere? He has got the scoring ability to make an NBA roster. So why you would have him come off the bench is kind of beyond me. Last game against Arlington, he played 22 minutes. Didn't have his best game, but he still played 22 minutes. That was, I think, 5 days ago on the 21st. So back in Stephenville tonight, a game they absolutely need. My gut says he's probably going to play. Like my gut says he's probably fine and will play most of his minutes. And the thing about Abilene, they do not score. And it's actually like interesting. It's kind of crazy that Tarleton gave up 84 points to them. But the other thing is Tarleton in general, their defense has suffered of late. The 106-105 game against Southern Utah is almost inexcusable. I thought they played better defensively against Arlington, but that's a team that's going to get you into a defensive type game. So they lose that game 71-64, but Arlington's a pretty good defensive team. I really do like the Tarleton side here. You've got an Abilene team that ranks outside the top 300 in points per game. If you get Tarleton showing up with a little bit of defensive intensity here, even if Dior plays 20 minutes and doesn't have his best game, I think this is a Tarleton win and cover. So because I have not found anything better yet, well, I want to talk about a couple other games, but I think Tarleton -4.5 is going to either be a play for me, a parlay leg, or something. Because I think this is a good spot for them to bounce back and get a win. And 4.5 is manageable. I wished it was a little bit better, but at home, I think if they win, they can cover that number. Firefighter says Abilene can't score with Tarleton. That's very true. If Tarleton is full strength and they have their normal complement of players, I would and any little bit of defensive intensity in this game, I think that is going to be the case. I think Tarleton will score and pull away in that game by the tune of more than four points. So Bayou bets. Bayou says, why are both of these games being played at Tarleton State? I believe everyone in this league this year plays 3 times. So some of the teams you're going to play twice at home, once on the road. Some of the teams are going to play once at home, twice on the road. I believe it's a 7-team league with 18 league games. So I think you play everyone in the league 3 times. And Bayou asked if Billy Gillespie wasn't on the sideline for the Utah games. Like, again, I don't know how much that really matters, but I mean, they played awful on that Utah trip. So a lot of good talking points here. Rob Vino, let's go to the Big Ten. The Big Ten's trying to sneak in a game that probably would have been more of a feature if either of these teams were really any good this year. But when you've got Duke Louisville and you've got Arizona BYU, suddenly Penn State Ohio State is a little bit of an afterthought. But it is national TV at the Value City Arena, Columbus, Ohio. 11.5 with the Buckeyes. Do you have any interest in Penn State, Ohio State? And do you have anything on the total here?
Well, my initial lean was to go ahead and play Ohio State team total to the over, Adam. Quick check of that number as we speak, so we get it right. I haven't looked at it in a couple hours. 81.5, down from 83.5 opener. Some 82.5s out there right now, but the overall game total has gone up to 154.5. My initial thought is, Ohio State, after seeing enough of them, is an offensive-oriented team that's got scorers all over the floor that can put points up, and Penn State just hasn't been good defensively for the most part this season. So you would think that at home, in a conference where, Ohio State just is showing that they're not going to beat the top tier. They might play them close, but they're not going to beat them, which in turn makes all these winnable games so important to them for seeding when it comes into the Big Ten tournament. You got to win these ones that you are capable of winning. Their losing streak right now is 6 games, 3-3 against the spread in those, 3-5 to the under in a lot of their recent games. But let me go over their recent games. Michigan, good defense. Purdue, good defense. UCLA, good defense. Maryland, Wisconsin, the last 2 games they've played that don't play tremendous defense, a 169 and a 169 full game total, with Ohio State posting 71 and 73. Excuse me, that's the Penn State side I'm reading you right now. Their inability to stop people to allow 90-plus points in their last 2 games just leads me to believe that Ohio State can do the same with Bruce Thornton and company. It's not a team that's going to slow it down. It's not a team that lets off the gas. So that's the way I'm looking at them. It's not one that I've played so far this morning, but I may get there. This number now has crept into a position where you're asking me to score 82 points with Ohio State. I seriously think I could get there with that. The Penn State side, if I trusted them more, I would go full game total. Haven't done that yet either. So again, it's a lot of analysis without a lot of conviction. Nothing came out of my wallet, or I didn't open up any tabs to go ahead and press send yet with a play. But that's the way I would look. I would look towards Ohio State team total over here.
Sorry, it's muted. Yeah, it's difficult to disagree with any of that. I've kind of commented on a couple of different times. I've had just zero interest in getting involved with Penn State. I know they had a string of playing a couple of close games earlier in conference play, I believe, ahead of that UCLA game. We talked on this show that UCLA would probably beat them and beat them handily, and they did. And now they have to go on the road, play Ohio State. I guess, you could say, okay, well, Ohio State kind of had like a max effort type game on Friday, which they did. I thought they were okay in that game against Michigan. They hung around. Believe they ended up covering the number. That was a pretty close game for more of the game than I kind of thought it was going to be close, Rob. Michigan, Ohio State on Friday. But yeah, it kind of feels like a spot where they bounce back. Penn State, I don't have their road numbers in front of me right here, but I think they've been worse, from a defensive standpoint on the road, which would concern me for them, A, keeping this close, and B, your team total probably makes some sense if that's the case. Steve Duke says he makes Ohio State minus 15.5. I just realized I didn't finish my calculation on this one. I'm probably in the 14-ish range, so not gonna have a huge edge there. I haven't bet many of these Big Ten games this year, so I doubt I'll bet this one. But yeah, Penn State only their 5th true road game this year. That's interesting to me. Penn State managed to avoid playing road games, all non-conference play. Only 1-3 in 4 true road games this year. Now they have to go to Columbus. Yeah, I mean, Ohio State's defense concerns me, but I think they could score at will here against Penn State. So I think I'll lean with you, Rob. Team total over. I kind of like that for Ohio State.
Yeah, 2 conference road games for Penn State so far this year, Adam. 96 and 93 allowed, Purdue and Maryland. Here you're asked to get to 82. I'm with you. I don't know that I could lay 11.5 with Ohio State because they're just not a team that you want to give that many points with. But you can, generally speaking, trust that offense. There's a lot of scorers on that team, so maybe it's a way that will look. I'll go right now real quick. I'll just give you my leg of the parlay so I can get mine out of the way. Then you can go ahead and get yours out of the way. But I'll go and point toward our good friend Reggie Theus down there at Bethune Cookman, where I do have a play on a team total, one that I made this morning. It's one of only 2 plays I've had so far personally here today. And I don't know that the list is going to get any bigger just because of the short board list, but we do tack on during the day for those that want to purchase full court press, 3 days, $59. I'm going to play the Bethune-Cookman side here, Adam, up and over their team total, which currently sits at 79.5. You will see some 80.5s out there if that's all you can get. If you only have one outlet, if there's only one place you can play, and they show you 80.5, I would still play it here. It's in essence, it's one of the best offenses, if not the best offense inside the SWAC against one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense. What Alcorn State will try to do, because Bethune-Cookman, this is a high tempo league, but Bethune-Cookman will want to get out and run here at home. And Alcorn's really only defense mechanism is to try and slow games down a little bit because they don't shoot it and they don't defend. Bethune-Cookman's been on a pretty good roll as of late where point production is concerned. 79 against Mississippi Valley, 87 against Pine Bluff, although that was in overtime. I do take that one seriously because Pine Bluff's a pretty good team in that league. So to get 87 there, I think and that was done on the road. Came home the other day absolutely destroyed Jackson State, scored 85. You're going to ask them to get, and again, if all you can get is 80.5, you need them to get to 81. I just don't see the problem with that here against this team. So for me, just based on matchups, just based on fundamentals, there really is no situation here. No look ahead or anything like that, because Bethune-Cookman doesn't play for 6 days. So this is just a home game where they can follow up to what they did on Saturday and go out and beat another team for the however many are in attendance at the home for the home crowd here. But I think Bethune-Cookman, I have the number of 79.5. Again, there are some 80.5s out there. I play them over.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I've said on a couple of occasions in this league, in the SWAC, that I thought Alcorn, was kind of belonged down at the bottom with Mississippi Valley State. Maybe not quite as bad as them, but I noticed that they kind of get priced. They don't get priced as much of a bottom option as I feel like they should be. I actually took, I believe it was a week ago today, kind of took an unlucky loss fading Alcorn State. They won a game at the buzzer that really, like, they needed to get a stop. They needed a stop and then to go to length of the floor and score to win that game at the buzzer. That was, I believe, they beat maybe Prairie View in that game, who, again, Prairie View is probably one of the lesser teams in this league as well. I think we've kind of established that of that top crew of SWAC teams that are all decent this year, Bethune-Cookman definitely has the most talent. And I think they could emerge as the best of the bunch when it's all said and done. So, yeah, like Steve's saying, he got to, I don't know if that means that's what he made the number, but like at the open at 12, if you could have got Bethune 12, that's probably a pretty good bet. It's 14 now. I'm not sure I would chase those 2 points, but Rob, I think that makes your case on the team total that much stronger. Just a way to sort of play Bethune without having to lay a number that's 2 point worse. What was the number on that again?
The consensus number here is 79.5, Adam, but I see a lot of 80.5s again at places that are available to most folks across the country, around the world. So I think, in fairness to the audience, we probably should say 89.5. 80.5 rather than the 79.5 that I got.
All right, we can call it 80.5. Yeah, that'll work. And again, I think that one could get out of hand. Bethune at home, I feel like that might get out of hand. All right, so I know we have a couple. So I'm going to lock my parlay leg in right now, and it's going to cover. We got a couple of donations here, and so mine will cover this one. So Garth jumps in and he says thoughts on the Moyne money line. I'm going to give you that in a second, and then after that, we'll go to Mad Max and we'll talk that Texas A&M Corpus Christi game. But I was going to sell this one, but you know what? I did lose a 5%er yesterday, and I know that was devastating to some folks in the chat. So I'm just going to give this one out for free, Rob Vino, and it's going to be my leg of the parlay. I played Lemoyne on the money line. I did it a few minutes ago. They are minus. The system gave me minus 110. I think it's like minus 110, minus 115. This actually just got down as low as pick. And I'm just double checking because, again, we've talked about this, very difficult to actually put plays in, like on the show, which is what I was trying to do here. So, yeah, I saw the screen get hit. I disagreed with the move. And when this got down to pick, I decided I was going to play the Lemoyne money line because it was 2.5 earlier. I liked it at 2.5, Rob. And then as soon as I didn't have to lay 2.5 with Lemoyne, I said, all right, let's go. Let's just lock that in. So this is a client play for me. This will also be my leg of the parlay. It's coming back to 1, but still you should be able. It looks like there's plenty of minus 110, minus 115. So we'll call it minus 115 on the money line for the show. Lemoyne is quietly becoming one of the sort of dark horses in this league. So I'll go back to our show on Friday. We talked about how the books price the NEC. They've got Long Island up there as the top option, which is deserved. Long Island is by far the best team in this league, in my opinion. They deserve to be the top option in the NEC. But after that, the league just prices all these teams the same. And on Friday, I pointed out that probably shouldn't have been the case with Mercyhurst and New Haven, and Mercyhurst got the win in that game. And I kind of feel the same here. Like Lemoyne, in my opinion, is a better team than Fairleigh Dickinson. Like I've watched both these teams play a ton. I did lose on Friday night, Rob, fading Fairleigh Dickinson, but I don't think I've ever quite seen a team give up like I did Central Connecticut State in that game. They had an 11-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the first half. They gave up 14 straight points to end the half. Fairleigh Dickinson hit like 5 threes in a row, 4 or 5 threes. Gave up 14 straight points to end the half. And Central Connecticut State came out in the second half and just straight up gave up. Never seen anything like it. It looked like they were going to blow Fairleigh Dickinson out, and it turned into a blowout win for FDU. So again, credit to FDU for going on the road, getting that win. Back-to-back wins for them over Wagner and CCSU, but it doesn't make me like, I still don't think they're a better team than Lemoyne, who actually has been the best defensive team in this conference from an efficiency standpoint this year. So you have a really good defensive team. Lemoyne's 4-7 on the road, which doesn't seem like much, but some of those road games were earlier in the year, games that they were never going to win anyway. So they've actually won some on the road in conference, which is encouraging. They won the Chicago State game. They won at St. Francis. So a couple of conference road games, one at Binghamton earlier this year. That's a rivalry game that was before Binghamton had all of their injuries. I went to the Bowling Green game when Lemoyne played Bowling Green, and they were pretty good in that game for 25 minutes. That's, of course, a far superior opponent than what they're playing today. So you're going to give me Lemoyne at pick. They're the better team. I love Fairleigh Dickinson's gym, but I don't think they're going to get like some sort of crazy turnout tonight. So yeah, I just think that this is very Mercyhurst-esque from Friday, where I just think I'm not too worried about the quote unquote road game. I know they were worried about getting there, but I was just on I-90 a little while ago, and the roads are plowed. So I think Lemoyne, even though school's closed, I think they're going to have no problem getting down to Jersey. 90 has been plowed. And yeah, I just think that they're a better team. So I'm going to go with the same handicap from Friday that got us a winner on the show on Friday. Lemoyne, pick. They're the better team. They're going to go to, believe it's Hackensack, New Jersey, Rob Vino, and take care of business tonight. So that'll be my leg of the parlay.
And I'll just add real quick, Adam, because I talk a lot about bounce back in my handicapping. You pointed out the 14 points at the end of the half put up by FEU, and it was done on the backs of 3-point shooting. For that game, they shot 11 of 22, 50% from three. Fairleigh Dickinson did. They're the worst shooting team in conference play from three overall this season. Only hitting 32%. They ranked 10th out of 10 teams, and yet they came up with 11 out of 22 for 50% against Central Connecticut State, who, by the way, is the second worst 3-point defense in the league. Now you get Lemoyne, who actually does defend the three. They're number 2 inside conference play. I'm not using overall statistics here, guys, because the overalls are so skewed by the non-conference schedule. Let's just stick to what these teams do inside their own league here. Do you see 11 of 22 coming from Fairleigh Dickinson again against a team that does defend the three? So Lemoyne should have fundamental edges here as well. So I could totally agree with that spot here. It just seems like maybe the 11 of 22 was the random one-off for Fairleigh Dickinson beyond the arc. And if they don't get those tonight, I don't know. Are they going to get enough to win this game? Probably not.
Yeah, and I think there's a case to be made. I've teased it a couple times this year that Central Connecticut State just doesn't have the talent that they did last year. They lost the player of the year in this league. I love Pat Sellers. He's a great coach. But the more I watch that team play, the more it's just like not last year's team, like from a talent standpoint. And they've been clipped a couple of times now in league play. Mercyhurst got them a couple weeks ago. So, I think I maybe had a little bit of a inflated kind of thought on CCSU going into that game. And then, like you said, Fairleigh Dickinson was just straight up unconscious in the second half. Just have to tip the cap there. All right, Robino, I'm going to go to you. This is the final game we'll talk about on the show. Mad Max, he says leaning Texas A&M Corpus Christi -1. Only loss at home was to McNeese and Nichols. UTRGV 3-game winning streak. What do you think in the Southland tonight? Corpus Christi, Rio Grande Valley.
I will say this: the victory, the McNeese State is impressive. I think you were on Rio Grande Valley at one point here on the show, Adam. I forget if it was a fade or a play on them.
No, I like them.
But
I've liked them this year.
Yeah, they're a team that I don't know if offensively. kind of a mixed bag, but defensively really, really good here. And in these types of leagues, I'll just say this, and this is my own opinion when looking at sides in this league. I count win streaks as a positive. When a team starts to get hot in conference that wasn't a really good team overall throughout non-conference, to me, it triggers one thing. They played the non-conference to get tested, and this is the case for a lot of SWAC and Southland teams. You play that non-conference to get tested and be ready for the step down in competition when you get into league play. To beat McNeese, to beat Southeastern Louisiana, then to pretty much stomp Houston Christian. It's fairly impressive on the UTGR side. However, the win over Incarnate Word by Corpus Christi, we've talked about Incarnate Word as being one of the individually more talented teams in this league, Adam. So that becomes fairly impressive too. I would not look at side here. I would lean that to Adam, although there's a huge move here, Adam, towards the dog, Rio Grande Valley, the road dog from 3.5 down to 1.5. The total was probably appropriately placed at 133. But I'll say this, I agree with the total move up to 134.5. I have this thing kind of slotted for the 136 plus range. So there's a little bit of wiggle room, about a 3-point, one bucket now worth of wiggle room in that game where total is concerned. I might look over there, Adam, for a very small play, but interesting as I look down as these lines pop while we talk, that game moves significantly. And the game we just talked about, or the team we just talked about, CCSU, took a lot of money today against Stonehill. I don't know if that's an injury-related situation or not, but to go from 1.5 all the way up to 4 on the road is kind of interesting. But where this game's concerned, my best take would be to play this game over the 134.5. You got a little bit of wiggle room there, I think.
Yeah, I guess maybe I wonder if Mason Gibson is out for Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I saw he only played like 15 minutes in their last game. He's one of the guards, one of the leading scorers for that team. Doesn't mean Corpus Christi can't win this game. No, because I part of the thing with Rio Grande Valley, like they have to hit threes, like to have any, like their offense is so predicated on hitting threes. They do not generate good looks from close range at all. So because they're a good 3-point shooting team, they can get by on that. But that tends to be a little bit tougher to do on the road. So 3-7 on the road this year. And that would be my only real concern with the UTRGV side is if they're not hitting their 3-point shot, they have a really hard time generating like good looks near the rim. I got stuck. I got caught with them in a game earlier this year where like the 3 wasn't falling and they just could not get near the rim. And that's my concern. With them in this game. Can they go on the road? Are they going to go on the road and just like bombs away from 3 against Corpus Christi? I guess I don't really know. So tough game there. I would have, in hindsight, would I love to have that plus 3.5 with RGV at this point? Yeah. Right. Like I that would be great. But since I don't have it, I don't know if I want to take a bad number with them here. So Corpus Christi, I would think that move is likely due to Gibson not playing. That's the only thing that really, in my opinion, would cause a move like that over 2 points. He matters, but again, he's not like, he's one of like 3 or 4 options for them. So can they still win? Yeah, I think probably that should be a pretty competitive game in the Southland, which is, I feel like a lot of those games are competitive games that can go either way. Once you get McNeese out of that, McNeese and Stephen F. Austin, like that middle of that league is quite competitive as well. And both these teams fall into the mix there. All right. We've reached the end of the show. Rob Bino, we hit a 2-teamer on Friday, so we got to try to do it again today as we claw back toward even on the parlays. I thought Kelly was going to get us home with a backdoor. Would have been an all-time backdoor with Oklahoma State. Yeah. They were down by 1 trillion and they cut it to like 10. I think she had 10.5. It just needed one more 3 to fall at the end there. Just could not get that last one to go, which that cost us the parlay on Saturday. So we're back here 2-teamer today. Rob, it's Bethune Cookman team total over 80.5, correct?
Correct.
So we've got Bethune Cookman team total over 80.5. I'm going to go with Moyne on the money line minus 115. That is a client play for me. And we will be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, for more full court press. As we said earlier in the show, double the firepower, CBB, all of my plays, all of Rob's plays. I'm looking right now. I'm probably going to have more than that Lemoyne play for today. So let's cash some tickets, Rob Vino. I'm going to go shovel some snow. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern.